Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight for SDMediaPros Meeting 2 via Zoom technology. We met via Zoom last month and had a really great event. And so thanks for being here again tonight. We have a very timely topic. We have Chris and Krista Francis here with us. They live here in San Diego, and when they were both diagnosed with COVID-19, they did what any good filmmaker would do and started to document their experiences. They grabbed a camera, first the iPhone, which is what they had easily available, and then later their professional equipment. But we're going to get to hear all the details of their story, their personal story with the illness, their documentation, and how it's all coming together in a documentary called Making Lemonade. So I think that's going to be fabulous. It's especially timely. And I think on a number of levels, just because we get to hear about the making of a documentary while you're actually yourself going through an unprecedented experience. So thank you, Chris and Krista Francis, for being here tonight. After the presentation, we will be doing a, hello, there you are. After the presentation, we will be doing a Q&A. So if you've got questions for Chris and Krista, just go ahead and drop those into the chat, which is down at the bottom of the window. And David Rains and Robin Martin will be monitoring that. Robin for technical questions and David Rains for content questions as we get to the end of the meeting. And as always, Tom Kinnaman is our technical director tonight. And I'd also want to acknowledge the other members of our board. Everybody is so busy, and these are the people who dedicate their time to put together these meetings. And I don't want to forget anybody, so I wrote everybody's name down. Includes Jeff Trover, Kevin Marty, Keith Methvin, Christine Gatlin, and Rich Harville. And of course, Mark Maisonneuve, who normally does our News You Can Use segment, and he is not here tonight unexpectedly. So we're going to postpone those topics until next month. And he had some interesting information, so it'll be interesting to hear from Mark when he's able to join us next. So, but again, put your questions into the chat so that we can keep track of those. And also, as Robin mentioned briefly, we'd love to kind of find out what's on your mind when it comes to getting back to work or just the industry in general once we're done with our conversation about making lemonade. So, but let's start. Let's get started with Chris and Krista Francis by playing the trailer for their documentary, Making Lemonade.
Alrighty then, let me share my screen, and this will get us started.
Welcome to another episode of Can Krista Taste This? First up, the onion.
Nope. I remember it was a Friday night. We had just sat down for dinner, and then I remember thinking, I can't taste my food.
NBC7's Joe Little introduces us tonight to a local filmmaker who is giving us a truly inside look at the virus because he and his wife both got it.
So this is the swab that goes back.
We have no idea what this virus is going to do to us. I haven't been able to taste my food in 45 days, and I don't know if it's coming back. This hasn't been easy, but is it possible that something good could actually come out of it?
So I'm calling to ask you a favor.
Sure.
To talk to you about something.
Okay. We're going to stop at a hospital. We got called to do blood draw for further development of the serology tests.
By volunteering, you've actually helped us develop what we think is really the best serology test out there.
Having COVID-19 has not been the funnest thing in the world, but you know, when life gives you lemons.
I purposely honestly waited to see the trailer until tonight. I haven't watched it in its entirety. And I want to let you know that it gave me goosebumps. Like, I'm very, very interested to hear about the process, to hear about your story. And with that, Chris and Krista, tell us about making lemonade.
All right. Well, where to begin? I think what we'll do, we'll focus most of tonight on the production side of things and how we handled it. But maybe Krista can start off with just a little bit of our health journey that actually started this whole thing.
Yeah, so I think the biggest question is who gave it to who? Because with this, we don't really know. Chris had kind of been feeling run down. He had been on a few production shoots, long days, and had started just feeling really run down, maybe a sinus infection.
Like many of you guys probably, right when the pandemic hit and there were rumors of lockdown, your clients probably did what my clients did, which is one of two things: canceled everything or canceled everything. And then, oh crap, actually, can we get this one last shoot in real quick before we can't do it and it's illegal? And then, oh no, we're going to cancel it. Oh wait, it's back on. So my last week before the pandemic was pretty crazy. I ended up doing 2 video shoots. That really wore me down. But I think just the stress of that week of the sprint, stop, just really wore me down. And I'm somebody that can get...
He's a bit of a hypochondriac,
True.
if you will. Any smallest thing, okay, I'm just going to use this word, man cold. I'm sure you all know what I mean when I say that. So when he was getting sick, I was like...
Haters on public.
I mean...
We're live.
And so at least that's kind of initially what we thought. Well, then a few days after lockdown, I guess is when it started, I work a full-time job, an office job, and had been in the office on the final day that we could, and then kind of like ran my last minute errands, my last trip to the grocery store. I had a few things. And a few days after that, I started feeling like, do I have a little tightness in my chest? Like, am I noticing that I'm breathing when normally you don't notice when you're breathing? And then I thought, I'm being paranoid. And a couple days later, we were running out. We went to like a drive-through coffee store, and I had to run to the pharmacy. And as I walked outside, I said, does the air smell bad to you? And
to which I replied, I have no idea, because I'm so stuffed up, I can't smell a thing.
And I was like, it smells like poop. Like, I literally feel like a dog. Like, it smells bad. I was like, that's so weird. And got in the car, whatever, I go to the pharmacy, and when I come out, I smell it again. And I'm like, that's so strange. Like, it's not on my shoes. I didn't smell it in the store. I just feel like the air smells bad. Like, well, whatever. Like, my smell's just maybe off or something. Didn't think anything of it until we're sitting down to dinner that night. And as we're eating, I realized that I can't taste my food at all. I can tell it's spicy, but there's no flavor whatsoever. And over those next couple of days, 'cause I didn't have a headache, I wasn't stuffed up, sinus, anything like you. And so I started Googling symptoms. And then on Sunday, we went for a walk.
Which is kind of a dangerous thing to do. WebMD scares the crap out of you.
It's true.
All the time.
It's like I either have COVID or
you're going to die in 2 days.
Yeah. And so we're on a walk together on Sunday. And I was like, Chris, I think I have it. I think the Rona got me. And I ended up setting up a video call with my doctor that night, actually, and told her my symptoms of was pretty much just sudden loss of taste and smell. And they got me in to schedule me for a test that next day. And then when my test came back positive, they're like, you should pretty much assume your husband has it. But since Chris's job relies on being around people, at that point I was working from home full time. But we're like, we need to find out from him, because you need to be around people to do your job.
Yeah. So basically, because I had kind of had cold-like symptoms, I started self-isolating early just in case. So I had to pass on a couple of video gigs just because I had this cough and wasn't feeling well. And it was like, statistically, I was like, what are the odds that I actually have COVID? That's got to be like next to nothing. But I was like, I can't be the guy that's showing up on set right now coughing. That would be like the worst thing I could probably do.
Yeah.
So I had been self-isolating. So I had literally been sitting on the couch that is right here doing nothing for 2 weeks. And then when Krista thought that she had COVID, my filmmaker instincts was like, wow, this has got to be like one of the first cases of anybody we know, and I have nothing to do. I would like to film this. But then I didn't know, because there's so many dang unknowns about this whole virus.
And because we got it pretty early, this was the end of March.
Yeah, so it was like 2 months
and
ago.
so there was still, I mean, just think of how much information is still changing every day. So go back 2 months when there's much less information, the fear, and it's just like, there's just so much of that.
Yeah, so Krista, as you'll learn in the film, if you see the whole thing, is 1,000 times tougher than I am as a human being. So I had a feeling she would take it well, but I was like, who knows if this crazy virus is like, I don't know, gonna kill her or something. We didn't think it was gonna really kill her, but I was like, I don't want to be that husband that's like just sticking a camera in her face instead of like being there and supporting her. So I went with her for the testing because I was like, I want to see what this looks like. And I haven't been out of the house in 2 weeks. So this was like the most entertainment I'd had in a while. So I went with her, wanted to film it the whole time. I was like, oh, I just want to film this, but I didn't. And then when Krista got her results a couple days later and they said she was positive, the doctor said, we should assume that you have it as well. And so that's when I was like, all right, it's on. If it's one thing if my wife has it and I'm going to be a supportive husband, but if it's coming after me, I'm at least getting a video of a doctor jamming a pipe cleaner up my nose out of this whole deal. So I talked to Krista, and I feel like it took a little. What was your perspective when I said I wanted to start filming it?
Well, it was interesting because, again, this was all very early on, and I had been, so my positive result came just a week plus after my last day in the office. And so I had to let HR know that I had come down with COVID, and they had to let my entire office know. They kept my name confidential, but we have less than 100 people in our office. I'm actually the office manager. So I sit at the reception desk. Everyone knows me. I talk to everyone. And so I really went through this emotional journey of like, people are going to find out it's me, like the stigma of like how they'd react to me or feeling guilty, like I'd done something wrong. And so in the beginning, when you're like, I want to film this, I'm like, no, like people are going to find out it's me. Like, I don't want to. And so I kind of had to go through a personal journey, realizing one, the virus like doesn't discriminate against anyone. Like anyone can get it. It's no one's fault that they got it. You know, it wasn't like I was licking doorknobs and whatever. I was following all the necessary precautions.
Were you though?
No,
okay.
no doorknob licking. So I eventually emotionally came around to the filming aspect and was like, honestly, he needs something to do, because when you're bored and not working, then that's a whole nother thing. So
that's true. Krista was making all the money and bringing home the benefits. So like most filmmakers, my spouse does all the real work. So that happened. And then here's my secret. The whole time in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm for sure making a documentary out of this. I was like, I'm going to be the first person to make a legit documentary. This is going to be awesome. Well, the film part of it, obviously. But I sold it to Krista as, I just want to start filming. I just kind of want to start capturing things. I think the appointments would be interesting, the tests. I just want to start filming things. You can say at any time, like, I was like, we're not committing, me filming is not committing to us like releasing this. I just want to film this. But let's face it, I knew I was going to make a film the whole time. And if it took some convincing, some arguing, I was ready for it. But I was like, oh, I'll just see if I can get her on board by just filming. And then I think at some point you probably just gave up, right?
Of you filming it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of forgot that you had told me I could quit at any point.
All right, can we scratch that from the record? Can we cut the Zoom? Yeah, so anyways, we started filming, but here's the dilemma as a filmmaker. So I've got an office. I work out of a studio, like a White Sykes soundstage in San Diego, and that's where my office is. And that's where all my gear was. So we were caught into this, it was kind of this weird thing. So during lockdown, it's like self-isolate, stay home, only go out when necessary. And that's what we were doing. But then as soon as we found out that we actually had the virus, then it was like, it literally felt like we may have gotten into a little bit of an argument once or twice, because I kind of became like, we can't touch anything or our neighbors are going to drop over and die right on the spot. Because we do have some neighbors in our apartment complex that are like smokers, older,
High
at
risk,
risk,
for
health
sure.
issues.
Yeah.
So we were like pretty much trapped. So I was like, I can't go get my gear, even though the office is closed. So for the first probably 2 weeks, all we had was our iPhones. And I was really happy that I think in February, we upgraded our iPhones.
Oh.
Well, actually, we upgraded Krista's iPhone earlier. Do you want to just give them a short story of why we had to upgrade your iPhone?
I was on a roller coaster at Disneyland, and on the first hill, as I'm going down the hill, I watched my iPhone fall out of the pocket from the highest peak of California screaming, and anyways.
Yeah. So she needed a new phone, and I was like, you're getting an 11 Pro because I want that camera.
True story.
And then I upgraded in February, so I was really glad that I did. So the first 2 weeks was all iPhone, nothing else. And I'll actually show you, I got a little sizzle reel. This is going to melt your socks off because this is a sizzle reel of iPhone footage. I don't know if you were planning on watching that tonight. Some of these are some extended takes here. Oh, I got to share my screen. Sorry.
Bottom there.
I did great during rehearsals, but let's see, iPhone reel. I'm probably going to upload this to Vimeo afterwards and see if I can land a bunch of gigs with this hot steaming iPhone footage. So we basically just popped this thing into 4K 24p mode. And what was really nice is the image stabilization is pretty dang good. And I'll admit, after 2 weeks of just using an iPhone, I kind of got spoiled. I was like, I like that it does auto everything. Auto focus, auto exposure, auto image stabilization.
What it doesn't auto do is set it to HD 24p though, because every time I went to take a video, make sure you change it to HD 24p.
4K, yeah.
Or 4K, sorry. See, that's why I'm not the #1 cinematographer right here. Yes.
Yeah, so we used it for everything. Travel cam, like right here, I did a 3-camera interview. The third camera is Krista literally sitting on a bar stool, holding her phone for 40 minutes while I interview an expert on Zoom, because I just had to have that third angle. And then we kind of needed it out of necessity. We did a lot of medical tests. As soon as we got diagnosed, we suddenly became very popular in the medical community. We were getting phone calls and emails left and right, and we wanted to volunteer as much as possible. So we couldn't come rolling in the hospital unannounced with my cinema package. So iPhones worked. And then as you're seeing here, there were lots of phone calls. Basically, anytime the phone rang, I was like, grab a camera, grab a phone, record this conversation. This could be the doctor giving us key results that we need for the film. Because of course, at this point, I'm thinking about the film. I'm not thinking about our health.
Yeah, there was times I just wanted to make a phone call, and it would take 10 minutes to get the lighting right before I could actually make the call.
This is true. We've had like a pretty we've had a very peaceable marriage, I would say. And even during quarantine, I feel like things have been pretty peaceable. But I think most of our arguments have been Krista wanting to just do something and me saying, no, hold on, I got to get my light, I got to get my camera, I got to get my microphone. Wait, we've already seen you at the kitchen table too much in this film. Can we put you in the blue chair by the window?
Can you change your shirt? I think we need a different color. And yeah.
That's true. She's been incredibly patient. I don't know how she does it, because I'm editing the film and I'm watching this footage and I'm like, that was me. I would have just slapped me and said, I'm done with the project so many times. So we started out all iPhone. That worked pretty good. And I think given the circumstances, it felt like we had like a pass, because it's like, what are you going to do? It's quarantine, social distancing. You can't even have a camera crew if you wanted one. So iPhone is what it is. So we just tried to embrace it as our only tool and make that part of the story too, because that's real life. That's how it was back in those days, 2 months ago. So I'll start talking more about production stuff, because this might be
it's really what they care about. Yeah.
We can do marriage counseling later. So basically what we did, we did iPhone for 2 weeks. And then I had my friends literally to start dropping off my gear like it was a drug deal. Like no joke. The first time I got all my gear, we were sitting at this table getting blood testing done. There was like a clinic that sent a guy out. And as I'm literally, well, this was another thing today, but I'm literally like have a needle in my arm and my buddy's like, hey, I'm here with the gear. So this is how we would do it because we had the virus at the time. So we were like, we can't infect anybody. So my SUV is parked right out here. I would literally hit the remote, keyless remote, and pop the trunk, and they would just leave stuff in there, close it, drive off, and like send me a text and say, hey, I dropped off the stuff.
It's done.
Yeah. And then I would literally go back out there like 30 minutes later, open up my truck and be like, what did they bring me today? I'm like, all right, we got a C200. We got, actually, instead of just talking about it, let's show you, because you know I got another reel for that. And I'm going to hit screen share this time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I like to call this one, oh, iPhone out of necessity. Gosh, sorry, this is embarrassing. This is my wife's computer, which is oddly way better than mine. Here we go. Gear arrives. Okay, yeah, so this is basically what it looked like. And of course, I had to film it because I might need that footage for the film. So this is literally like my computer, my light, my tripod, my mic, basically like all the basics that I could get.
And our apartment suddenly turned into his office and storage unit. Let's be honest, I'm really ready to get all of his video gear back in the office and out of our 600 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, one bedroom apartment gets a lot smaller when it's got to double as a production stage. So yeah, so that's one of my friends, Rico. He's one of my great friends. He was just dropping off gear, socially distancing, of course, and this was before you had to wear masks, so don't judge Rico. And that's my Drobo. That's my 50 terabyte video server that once I plugged it in, one of the drives failed, so that was kind of fun. So that's, if you know Drobo, I see somebody nodding their head. That's pretty par for the course. So luckily I had a 4 terabyte solid state Samsung drive. So I've been editing the whole production on that. And this is a tour of our production workspace, which when you have a doctor coming over to take some blood from you, you have to then turn your editing bay back into a sterile medical environment. So that's, that's always fun when you're in middle edit. So, and this is just a shot of some of the gear, kind of my main setup. Basically, that's what I had. It wasn't ideal, but it's the Canon C200, just handheld. I had the Rode video mic on the side, which is not that great of a mic, but it was way better than the iPhone. And then I got the small HD focus, the OLED version, which is so much better than the LCD version. LCD version is garbage. I wouldn't use it. Although it does help you see in the daylight. That's our little gear corner, which has grown considerably.
Only you could see it now.
I might have scraped up the paint in the walls in the corner there. But our main key light that I had to work with was the new Aperture 300D Mark II. I've got the mini dome on there. I've got my buddy's Rode NTG mic. I have no clue what model that is. We decided to do an Instagram Live one night for a date night because we hadn't been out in the world in what seemed like forever. And we had a lot of friends and family with questions. So this is kind of what this looks like through the ProMist filter on there, just to smooth things out, you know. I've got some before and after. The next couple shots are going to kind of be behind the scenes and then after. So the evolution of the production value kind of slowly changed, but I think in the final doc, it kind of works well. So this is our extra bed sheet that I found. Makes for a great soft source if you want that nice booklight look. And we actually filmed a game show.
That was in the beginning of the trailer.
Yeah,
where you saw me eating.
Game show, yeah. And we have the whole game shows on YouTube. Can Krista taste this?
Yeah.
This is where my mind goes. Krista loses her taste and smell, and I think, hey, let's do a cheesy game show where you eat a bunch of like terrible tasting foods and see if you can taste it.
The bell pepper is not a good example. I like bell pepper, but
okay.
The onion, that really got everybody.
Yeah. Okay, it was basically like, what's going to make a good crunch or what's going to be disgusting? So we started out with just the crunchy things.
Yeah.
And this is our home voiceover recording studio. This is me doing my game show announcing on what looks to be a Saturday morning. But let's face it, that could be a Tuesday at 5.
Yeah, sweatpants.
It could be a Thursday
There's
at
no
8.
rules in quarantine.
It could be a Sunday. I don't know. Yeah, it could be anytime. Oh, the other thing. Okay, yeah, so we've done a couple rounds of home blood testing. This is what the first one looked like on our iPhone. It's pretty grainy. Handheld's okay. But we've gone through so many testings that I've gotten shots to like reshoot scenes, which has been great. So this guy was like, he's been to our house 3 times. That was the first time. And then this was the 3rd time, actually. I was like, all right, we're setting up the counter because we haven't filmed a scene at the counter. We're going to get a really nice big key light. And we're just going to hope that when he walks in that we're like, hey, would you mind doing this on our kitchen counter instead of the table again? And I'm glad we did because it's probably the best looking footage in the whole documentary. So here we go.
Yeah, this guy, he comes from the first time when we're filming on iPhones being like, hey, do you mind if we film you? Like, we're just trying to, capture some of this. And then the next time he's got his, C200. And by the 3rd time he comes in, we've got the lights and the diffusion, and it's like this whole event.
Yeah. So I was like, well, this film might suck, but at least I can post this screen grab on Instagram and people will think I'm a good cinematographer. So at least we got that going for us. All right. So let's go.
Stop share.
Stop share. All right.
Here we go.
We are back live, I think.
Perfect. Yep.
All right, cool.
We are.
Let me look at my notes. All right. Yeah. So we switched to C200. I'll get into a little bit of post-production, a little distribution, and then I want to open it up to questions because let's face it, I've just been rambling for way too long and it's way more entertaining to hear from Krista. So post-production. As you guys saw in there, I'm on an old iMac that totally sucks. The only thing that sucks worse than my iMac is using Premiere Pro on an iMac. So I'm sure Eric Addison is heading to the chat room right now to get me to buy a PC. Here's the thing. I'm trying to get sponsors for this film. So I'm like, what vendors have we used? I'm like, oh, Adobe Premiere. I'm like, I can't reach out to Adobe Premiere because I've pretty much just been cursing their name for the last like 2 months. So use Premiere. The saving grace was I edited everything on a 4 terabyte Samsung solid state drive, which I actually want to show you guys real quick.
Stand by.
All right, sorry about that. That was unplanned show and tell. So this is just like a bare drive in here inside of a little silicone housing that's vented for ventilation, and then just like literally like a $10 USB thing. And it's like, this is incredible. It's like, why mess with all that stuff? If you can fit an entire project on 4 terabytes, this is like incredible, lightning fast. I would say I did a really deep dive. Things may have changed in the last couple months, but if you try to buy a portable solid state drive that's 4 terabytes or more, the housing is going to totally suck and not work with a Macintosh. If anybody has a good recommendation, throw it in the chat. But you just buy this thing for half the price, put a little piece of silicone on it, boom, you're done. So, but then again, I don't know if I should be giving post-production advice because I'm on an old iMac and a crappy version of Premiere. But anyways, we started editing. When I started editing, I had no idea if we actually had a story because I was like, I'm just literally just filming whatever happens to us. And then I started staying up till like, what?
The 3:30 in the morning?
Yeah, editing. So like every night I would just stay up till
Ridiculous.
2, 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Or
editing.
you'd alternate, and then, so you might go to bed at like a decent time, 11, 12, and then you'd wake up at like 4 a.m. and your brain would be like, oh yeah, I'm editing a film. And then you wouldn't be able to fall back asleep.
That's true.
So
I have the webcam footage to prove that because
it's true.
I was recording everything. I was literally like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to record it all. So we did that. One other thing I would like to share that kind of, because here's the thing, like we didn't start out like, this is the beginning, we'll get the virus. You'll lose your taste and smell. Maybe I'll get really sick. That would be cool. No, like there's just like real life. We had no idea what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I'm just going to film this. If nothing else, it'll give me something to do. So when I started editing, I was like, I guess we'll just tell it in a linear story, like kind of a follow doc type thing. But one thing that was really helpful for me to structure my edit, and I'm
Go
not
back to
hitting
Zoom.
screen share. Sorry.
Share screen.
She's the pro.
Bottom.
All right. All right. So I used this guy right here. This was at a talk that I was at like 7 or 8 years ago. Hopefully you guys can see this. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit. It was somebody who's like a speechwriter coach or whatever, but she mapped out all of Martin Luther King's speeches. And she was basically like, it's all peaks and valleys. So to keep the audience interest, which I hope we're doing right now, who knows if we are, is just going peaks and valleys. So in MLK's speeches, a lot of times what's up at the top would be an ideal of what the future could be. And then he would immediately contrast that down with the stark realities that we're facing today. And then he would immediately go back up to like, but this is what could be possible if we all band together, but here's the obstacle. So I just kind of created this timeline, and it's probably chicken scratch right now, but I just did each scene, like what this scene is a good scene. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's good news. I know that I can't just keep stringing those together. I need to go to what's something we captured that was not fun or that sucked or was something that worried us or when we were feeling bad. So I basically just went through the timeline and tried to ping back and forth from that. And then towards the end, all these items on the right in the pink, oh, here's something interesting. So on the left, everything on the left is basically when we thought the film was finished, like what, like a month ago?
A month ago, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually had a finished screener that we were actually shopping to agents and stuff that was only like 18, 19 minutes long, because I felt a lot of pressure to like, I want to be the first person out there that's got a legit doc. And then the agent that's been working with us the most said we had way too many happy things and not enough struggles. So we needed to be a little more authentic and share some of that side too. So everything on the right hand, these are all new scenes that we've done in the last month or so. So as you can see from left to right, it's kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. And then before we get to the ending, there's a lot of down, down, downs in a row. Just trying to kind of push it into more of a narrative structure for the ending. So that was kind of my guiding light, I guess, for editing. So yeah. So I think the last thing we'll talk about is distribution. And then hopefully you guys have some questions that we can answer. Right now, so I'll say long story short, when we had like the 17-minute version of the film done, I just threw something out on Instagram and was like, hey, does anybody have any contacts at Netflix? Because at that point, up till that point, I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know if we have a film. And then I started feeling really good about it after a couple of many late nights in a row. And then I showed it to some producer friends of mine, and they were like, wow, this is great. Like, this is really timely. Nobody could make a film like this. We think you have something. So I was like, I'm just going to throw this out there. Long story short, one of my friends that's a lawyer that I've had as a video client, one of the lawyers at her firm has Netflix as a client, and he's an entertainment lawyer and has booked a deal with them. So he watched the film and was like, this is great. Like, this is really timely. This is really unique. This is so different than anything else that's out there. I think this has got a shot. Would you like me to pass this along to the head of Netflix or the head of publicity at Netflix? And I had to think about it. And I was like,
that quick?
Yes. So he sent it to them, but that's, who knows? That could be like a black hole. That could be like scratching a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
But from there, we got connected with a couple of agents that gave us some really good advice, and we've had some really good conversations. So right now, we just finished the current screener of the film, or as I like to call it, the final version of the film, which Krista knows means.
Oh my gosh, if I had $1 for every time he has said this is the final version of the film.
Today, we filmed our final scene of the film.
We hope.
Actually, I'm lied. We're filming another one tomorrow.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Anyways.
But we thought it was going to be the end. Yep. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So that's back to a couple of agents. We're starting to get feedback from some producers, some people. It sounds so lame to say people in Hollywood, but really some people in Hollywood. Like one of the producers of all the X-Men movies that I've met before and we have a connection with, he checked it out. And so we're starting to get feedback. And we're plan B, we're looking at self-distribution options as well. If that doesn't go, we have no idea if anybody's going to really want to touch our film, to be honest with you. we don't watch a lot of the news because we actually don't have
And you have a TV.
But our film is not doom and gloom at all. As you can see, we're here, we're healthy now, we're feeling good. We didn't get it crazy bad. So the main theme about our film is making the best of our situation. So we've been involved, I think including today, I think between the two of us, I counted like 16 tests or donations or research studies. So basically any opportunity we've had to volunteer to help improve the technology, work on a vaccine, anything like that, we're like, we'll do it no matter what. So the majority of our film, you see our personal journey and how we've dealt with the illness and how it's affected our livelihood, our finances, our health and stuff like that. But it's also really highlighting, okay, how can we make the best out of our situation? And hopefully it entertains people and it also inspires them, because I think statistically, the statistics change all the time. Statistically, I think they say like half the people in America will get COVID-19
I think that's what they're saying.
eventually.
I don't know if that's still the.
And I think like maybe half of those will either be asymptomatic or have low symptoms or mild symptoms.
Yeah.
But there's going to be things that those people can do to actually help, like kind of use their unfortunate illness and their journey and what happens in their bodies. They're actually going to be able to use that to then help the people that are on ventilators, that are on their deathbeds and stuff like that. So that's really the heart of our film. But we have no idea if anybody's going to want to put their name on it. Like, to be honest with you, like we have a lot of fun along the way. There's a lot of laughs. There are some tears. There might've been some tears today, actually. Hey, sorry. But yeah, we really have no idea. Like, is Netflix, is Hulu, is CNN, is HBO, MTV? I don't know. Is anybody going to want to put their name on this? Because it's not like frontline workers. There's 0% politics, 0% conspiracy theories, and it's 100% just our journey and what we're doing and how we're trying to make the best of it. Yeah. So we hope that people enjoy it. We've gotten really good feedback from the trailer and stuff like that. But I think in the next week or two, I think we'll have an inkling on whether it's got a shot at picking up distribution or whether we're going to self-distribute. And if we self-distribute, probably what we're going to do is we're going to go onto Amazon, because that's one of the only outlets that you can upload to without the need of an aggregator, which means it basically doesn't cost us anything to get it up there. We can set our own price, and then Amazon keeps 50%, we keep 50%. And then anybody that has an Amazon Fire Stick, a Kindle, an iPad, anybody that has the Amazon app can buy it to rent it or buy it. We could also put it on Amazon Prime if we are into not making any money at all, but getting some views, we can do that. So everybody we've talked to that's gone the self-distribution route, all say that Amazon is the most profitable.
You just contradicted yourself. You said Amazon would be no money.
Well, Amazon Prime.
Oh.
Like, so people can watch
for
it for
free.
free.
Oh,
like
God, sorry. Okay.
Because here's something, if you want to put your film on Amazon Prime, this is how much money you make. You make between 5 cents and 10 cents per hour watched. So our film right now is like 43 minutes. So it's not even an hour. So if we put it on Amazon Prime for free, so anybody with a Prime account watched it, we would make maybe 5-6 cents every time somebody watched it, if they watched it all
if they watch the full thing.
So it would be cool to be like, hey, we're on Amazon Prime, but zero money.
Yeah.
But if we put it out there for rent or buy, that would still pop up in the app. And a lot of independent filmmakers say the algorithm's actually really good. So we're hopeful that if we self-distribute, we've been growing our email list through Facebook ads. We've had a lot of like great organic reach just from our friends and family, just sharing it like crazy. So we think that we would have a small enough group to all go out and rent it and buy it and rate it and review it and vote things up as the most helpful review to at least kickstart it. And then from there, then we have no idea. Then we're up to like just the general world, and anybody that, wants to say our movie sucks, they can leave that review. And if people vote it up, we might be screwed.
Yeah.
So who knows? So
yeah.
I don't know. I've been blabbing. Do you have any final thoughts before we open it to Q&A?
No, I say we see what the people want to know.
All right. Hopefully you guys are still awake. Hopefully we haven't bored you too bad.
We are still here, and I've been seeing a lot of smiles and laughs as your story has gone along, so thank you for that. And it sounds like it's 100% authentic. Like it's really about your story and everything that happened. And I really appreciate sort of this idea that there's a camera in your face all the time while you're feeling at some of your worst that you've ever felt. So thank you for opening yourselves up to just being authentic in that way. So Robin, David, do we have some questions that we would like to share?
Sure. Well, Greg had asked, how serious did your illness get, and how long have you been in recovery? Like, how long have you been feeling well?
Yeah. So, would you like to answer that? I've been talking so much.
Sure.
I feel like we all just want to look at you.
So Chris is an interesting case because he had kind of been sick and like worn down for like even a month before this. And he had a cough that was just like lingering forever that doctors confirmed like wasn't COVID related.
Right.
He just kind of
I have allergies too. And I am totally that guy that if somebody hires me for like a big 3-day shoot and I'm producing and DPing, like I will like get a sinus infection because I will like stress about it and like just run over the details in my head forever. So I make myself sick a lot. So I'm not a good barometer.
It's true. So he was honestly, in my opinion, he probably actually was an asymptomatic carrier of COVID. All of his sick, you don't think so?
Well, I felt like I had a legit sinus infection for a week.
Well, right. They thought you had a sinus infection. They gave you medicine. They gave you antibiotics.
That's true.
So
Who
anyways,
knows about me?
So he has finally recovered. Your cough is mostly gone.
It's gone.
It's gone. Okay.
It's allergy season, so that's not fun. But
and I developed a cough for about a week, not bad at all. But so the only other thing I had, we never got fevers or anything. So like I said, I lost my sense of taste and smell, which is still not back yet.
and how long has that been?
I think today is day 63. So I'm still dealing with, and I'll call that like the side effects or like the ongoing, side effect, I guess. Even though it is technically an official symptom, I've been medically cleared by my doctor, and they've told me that this is just a really long, slow process for some people and gaining it back. So it's like coming back ever so slowly, teeny, tiny. But I think I am in the minority of how long loss of sense and smell has.
Yeah, so you said it's been 63 days?
Yeah, which is...
So she, again, proof that she's way tougher than me. She hasn't literally been able to taste her food or her drinks for 63 days.
8 weeks.
If that was me by like day 4, I would be like curled up in a ball and just be like, what's the point of living if I can't have my chai tea latte and I can't taste my pad thai? Like, there's just no point. Just put me in a coma. But she's a trooper, so...
So I have a technical question. I'm just going to interject and then we'll get to another audience question. I'm curious about matching the footage. Like, what are you doing, or are you not worrying about that? Are you just sort of letting it evolve from the iPhone 11 to your higher quality footage?
Yeah, most of the scenes right now are self-contained, so there's not a lot of mixing of footage within a scene. We do have one scene that we filmed that was a doctor's visit that was really educational. It basically shows exactly how the 15-minute serology test works. And that was like a last-second call. The doctor called us and was like, hey, can you come now? And so we just like rushed and did it and brought our iPhones. And we're waiting to get the release from that doctor. And in the meantime, Krista is actually doing another test tomorrow. So I'm going to bring my C200 there because they've already agreed to let me film. So there's a chance that there may be a couple of scenes where we kind of intercut the two because there's so much valuable information. And so that'll be interesting. But I think what I tried to do just as a filmmaker before every scene, I tried to capture our thoughts about what we were getting ready to do first, capture whatever it was, and then afterwards capture our thoughts looking back on that. So I think that leaves for a good place for the before and the after to be on the iPhone. So if we do end up having to like recut some scenes, I'm hoping that by keeping them separated at least that much that it won't be a problem. But we're kind of just embracing, like there's totally clips in there, vertical video, which I know is probably killing some of you right now. it kills me a little bit, where we originally like shot it for an Instagram story or something.
Funny post or
and
something.
we're like, oh, this is funny. Like, I'm about to give blood, and spoiler alert about the film, I do not do good with giving blood, and I've given a lot of blood recently. So to get myself hyped up, I would try to make fun of myself, make funny videos on Instagram and stuff. And then I'd be like, let's just put this in the film. So we're kind of just embracing the mixed media format, I guess.
Which I think is completely acceptable, and for better or worse, we're all getting used to Zoom video and audio. So, David, do you have another question?
I actually do. If you don't mind, I have one for myself.
Yes.
So there is some controversy, obviously, over the wearing of masks and not wearing of masks. And I've noticed in the video, when the gentleman was coming to draw your blood, he would wear a mask, and I don't know what kind of mask he was wearing, but neither of you were wearing masks for him. So I don't know if they had what you had learned in this process as far as the mask wearing goes.
Yeah, so though that particular footage was our serology testing, so that was after we had already been medically cleared of COVID. We've been medically cleared that we did not have it. You're looking at me as
I don't think all of them were.
Maybe, you know what, maybe the first
one,
iPhone one wasn't.
Yeah, and I think honestly it was so early on, like masks weren't even really in talks yet, other than like save the masks for the medical workers, the N95.
Yeah.
So I don't even think masks crossed our minds that first time. And they never communicated to us as well.
That's true.
Like, hey, please wear a mask. Like they were like, they had us open the door and they didn't want to touch the things in our apartment. But I think in those early ones, it was never even, honestly,
yeah, that's
we didn't
true,
even
because it's crazy. It's crazy how much has changed so quickly.
Yeah.
That literally, like, even when 2 months ago, when we first went into testing, we didn't wear masks even for the drive-up testing, I don't think.
Not mine.
Like the doctor was like all super like garbed up, but the thought never even crossed our mind, and they didn't say like to wear masks. And so
yeah,
so
I guess it was pre-mask era, I think.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about, because it seems like we've all been wearing masks for a while.
Point.
But yeah, no, like when we did some of the other testing, like when we went to the hospital and stuff, we're definitely wearing masks for that. I don't know if any of that footage was in there. So when we've gone outside of our house, we've worn masks, but that's an interesting thought. Like that hadn't even
occurred to me. Yeah.
So good catch. But yeah, none of the doctors told us to, and that was literally before.
Yeah, it was before they were required.
I don't even think we had masks then.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I mean, we got a ton of them now.
Awesome, thank you. Julianne Valera, are you there?
Yes.
Did you want to ask your question?
Okay, so one thing I'm wondering is, since there are so many people making coronavirus documentaries, what makes your documentary different than the other documentaries, besides the fact that the filmmakers are the sick ones?
Sure. Well, I think that is obviously the big differentiator. The articles I've read about the docs that are in production, obviously I haven't seen any of them or seen their promos. The only ones I've seen out in existence are the controversial ones that are like the Chinese coronavirus explained,
conspiracy theory,
or
yeah.
It's like what was the other one? Plandemic and stuff like that. So a lot of that stuff is super political. And then the articles I've read on, like, I think Variety and stuff like that, that filmmakers, their angle has been like, they've been following the front lines of the New York City emergency department, or it's people making it industry based. There's so many athletes that are making docs right now about how this has changed the landscape of the sports world. I know there's a lot of big names in the restaurant world that are doing documentaries about how this is financially just totally wrecking restaurants. So to my knowledge, I haven't heard of or seen anything that's like a personal follow doc. And I think like our unique thing, I guess, is that I'm a filmmaker, and I got it super early. So in a weird way, I kind of got like a couple month head start on any other filmmaker. Like I still haven't heard of a single filmmaker that's gotten it. We've heard of actors and celebrities.
Yeah. And I don't know, like too, you guys know better than me, the restrictions currently. Like I don't even know, can the documentary people right now go to someone and film them right now, or is it all over Zoom?
Yeah, a lot of things I've heard too are a lot of like thought pieces. So it's like, I think there's something on Netflix right now that's got Bill Gates and stuff, and it's literally just all talking head interviews. And some of the stuff I've seen is like, it's a lot of Zoom interviews and stuff like that. I think we've probably all seen that content.
And I think we just honestly, we hit probably the average American. We're not frontline workers. We're not athletes. We're not celebrity chefs. Like we just work. I work a 9 to 5 in an office. Like I think we hit like our story is like middle America.
It's true. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, and
there may not be an audience. We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we'll get that feedback in the next week or two as we hear back from agents and distributors of whether they're like, hey, we have 40 other documentaries that we're planning on making. Like maybe nobody wants to touch ours, but we just tried to stay true to like, hey, let's just focus on our story and our story only. Not that it's like just about us, because it's obviously the whole thing of the film is to inspire people to give back and help others and do whatever they can out of the hand that's dealt with them. So we really don't know what the reception is going to be like, but to my knowledge, I don't know of a single other filmmaker that's gotten the virus. I think, this has been around for a while now, and we only know like one other person
yeah.
And we don't really know them that well that's got it. So there's definitely a timeliness element to it. Like, I don't know if anybody's going to care about our documentary in another 2, 3, 4 months. Yeah. I have no idea. Like, it's such a weird changing landscape, but yeah, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but I would say the fact that I'm a filmmaker and I've actually documented our entire process. This isn't us telling our story that already happened and reenacting it. This was like captured as it went. So,
or it could just be my mom says I'm special, like
that's true. My mom will love this film.
Yeah. So
I think your mom will love it too.
It's true, but so. Yeah. Good question.
And according to our data on Facebook, the trailer is going great with moms, like ages like 50 to 64 women. They're eating it up. So,
David, what's our next question?
Elvie O'Connell, I see you're here with us. Did you want to ask the question that you posed in the chat? You're still on mute. There you go.
Lauren.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Thank you guys so much for doing this and sharing your story. I think you guys are fun to watch together. So I think you're ahead of the game there with everybody else.
Awesome. Thank you.
My question was sort of legally, how did you handle that? Going into medical professionals, sort of surprise, can I film you? How did all that work?
Yeah, well, we're still working some of that out. Basically, well, the majority of the film is just me and Krista. So I'd say like 80% of the content. Have you signed your release yet?
I did today.
Okay. All right.
Just signed my release. As we were getting some other, I was like, oh, I need to sign mine.
Yeah. So basically, we have releases for everybody. The only people we don't have releases for are some of the doctors and nurses who administered some of the tests. And so I filmed those intentionally to where I could keep their face out of it just in case we couldn't get releases. There were a couple of faces that we did blur. I will say, now this is an interesting thing. When a doctor is in their proper gear, how in the world do you know who that is? Because they're literally like, we're doing like drive-up testing in a dank parking garage that's like underlit, and they come up with a clear mask. They're masked up to here, and then they've got like, you're getting the reflection off of their mask.
Yeah.
And then it's already like low exposure. So I'm like, do I have to blur their face out? Because there's no way you can tell who this is. But we do have one doctor that called us to participate in the serology test. And so we just brought our iPhones, and like we just explained as soon as we were there, like, hey, like, I'm a filmmaker. We're documenting our journey for a documentary. Is it okay if we film? And most people, if you seem nice, say yeah. And so she said, yeah, we were filmed. She knows we were being filmed because she's literally on camera, looking at her camera, explaining to us the testing and what they're doing. And we're chatting through the whole thing. But I don't have a release from her yet. I actually just emailed her today. She might be a tough cookie, but I think what we have in our back pocket is that we volunteered for her test. And her and her practice stood gain a lot from getting their stuff approved. So,
and I think too, as just kind of the journey it's taken, and as we learned as we went on, kind of how we evolved from iPhones to whatever, like even now, like, so we just said, I'm doing something tomorrow. He did something today. We're in advance when they reach out to us about, hey, can you come in to do such and such? We respond with like, yes, we would love to. Also, we're working on a documentary. Would love to showcase the work that your organization is doing. Can we film? And so for the last couple of things we've done, we've had, you know, I can't think of the word, the
permission,
thank you, permission ahead of time. And so we met with like the PR head today of someplace. And so we're coming with our releases. They know we're filming. So that's also kind of been an evolution as well, and kind of a learning curve that, yeah, looking back on it or for the next thing we'll be more prepared. But
totally. Because yeah, when we started out, even though in my mind it was a documentary, when we were starting out, we didn't know what we were going to do with this. Like originally, like for the first month, I thought I was just going to post this on YouTube. Be like, hey, maybe we'll get this out there.
It's like an Instagram live, you know, an Instagram video or something. Yeah.
And so we've started to take it more serious. And so like, yeah, today we went to a medical appointment, and ahead of time had like their head of PR was escorting us, like full permission. Yeah. The test tomorrow, which is one of those ones that we might refilm and replace one of the scenes in our film if we can't get a release. Like that's, they know going in, we're making a documentary. So if you're okay with us filming, we're bringing releases, and here's what we want, this, and this. I'll admit I'm totally like a non-confrontational person / wuss. So like asking people for stuff like that just sounded so crazy to me. But after talking to some other people who have produced and distributed documentaries, they're like so gung-ho and like, oh, you just got to be upfront and be like, you know, here's what we're trying to do. So that's kind of what we're doing now. So I think we'll see how it goes. I think there's only one scene that I would need to re-edit if we don't get that doctor's release, because that still showcases the whole process. And there's no way you'd be able to identify her. So that might be something that hangs up for traditional distribution. But I think if we end up going self-distribution, we'll probably just roll the dice and blur faces that need to be, or recut scenes. One thing that we actually talked about today during lunch is if this doctor won't sign her release for the serology testing, I'm probably just going to start calling places that are doing serology testing and be like, here's what we're doing. We're doing this documentary. We think it's got a lot of potential. It's got a lot of great feedback, and it's 100% positive. And we're wanting to celebrate the groundbreaking medical work that you guys are doing, and we want to feature you in the documentary. So we're kind of coming at it from that point now, where 2 months ago it was kind of like,
oh, will
is
you
that
do
okay
us
if we
a
film
favor?
this?
Yeah.
So, but everybody we filmed gave us a verbal okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like hidden camera or anything.
Yeah.
So anyways, I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of where we're at right now with that.
David, who's next?
Greg. Greg had a question about LLC. Are you there, Greg?
I am here, and I'm wondering, is this film its own legal entity, or are you producing it through your own corporation, or are you producing it as individuals?
Hey, Greg. I'll say hi first. It's good to see your face. Right now we're just producing it under my LLC. So I have a production company that's an LLC. So if we hear back from like distribution or people that are interested for like legal purposes or stuff like that, that's something that I would definitely be interested in looking into. I think we're going to learn a lot if a distributor is like, hey, we want this film. I think I'm going to be baptized into the world of legal. Luckily, I do have Nicole Franco, who hopefully is watching. If you are, hi Nicole. She's my consultant producer on this project, and she's produced feature films that have gotten distribution through like Sony and stuff like that. So she's kind of gone through this process. And the guy that did all the legal for her film, he's the main agent that's been working with us. So I think, I think if we get distribution, we're going to look into some of that stuff as far as what we need to do to protect ourselves during the film. But I think if we self-distribute, we'll probably just keep it under our LLC and see what happens.
Okay, thank you. I think we have one more question. Let's see if Kevin Baird, are you available there?
Howdy.
Yeah, you had a question.
I had a couple of them actually. My last one was, what did you leave out that you kind of wanted to keep in but didn't really want to put in, and why?
Funny you should
Chris
ask.
is laughing because
Something happened today that
we probably can't say what happened today.
it was
But
a spoiler.
so, man, follow up via email, and we'll tell you after the film's up. So we did something today. We filmed the ending, what we think is the ending
Wait
of
a
our
minute,
film.
you're going to tell us that it's not COVID-19, but it's an STD or something like that?
No, maybe we should get tested for that too. No, I did have to answer some weird questions on some of the questionnaires today. Man, I want to tell this story, but I can't tell. All right, I'll just say this. We did something today. This is going to spoil the film a little bit. So if you enjoy this story, you have to rent or buy this film.
And if you don't want a spoiler, plug your ears.
Yeah,
but it's a funny story.
Okay, so today, I won't say what I did, but I did a medical procedure that went great and served its purpose and accomplishment. But midway through, something happened, which is why I'm wearing this bandage. Let's just say there was a puddle of my blood on the floor and all over my arm. And it was pretty dang entertaining. If I was making a reality show, that would be in every teaser clip that I could possibly think of.
But we're not going to put it in because
we probably won't, because it'll probably make the medical place look bad.
Even though it wasn't necessarily their fault,
Yeah,
like it was just a weird
freak
thing
accident
that happened. Freak accident's a strong word. That's
okay. Well,
it was just
a mishap.
A mishap.
It was a freak bloodbath. But we'll see. I'm gonna edit that scene. I don't think I can do that because they've been so nice. They let us their head of PR.
Yeah, they were great. They
interview.
rolled out the red carpet for anything we wanted to do.
Yeah, and it just so happened that they made a slight error that involved a major bloodbath, which was extremely entertaining. And I get really squeamish around that stuff. So
which
this was
really helped that.
Yeah, this was one of the hardest things I've had to do.
I was like, don't look.
In a long time. So I actually didn't see any of it. I felt it.
You're bleeding out. Don't look.
Yeah, I felt it, but I didn't look. But then when we got home, I looked at the footage because today was actually the first shoot we did with other cinematographer. Because until that point, it had either been me filming Krista or me putting the C200, setting the settings, turning autofocus, and giving it to her to film me. And this was the first time because we were like, this is the end of the film, and we need to both be in the scene. So he got a lot of great footage, and we had a lot of laughs watching it back. And I think it actually ties in perfectly to the theme of our film, of bad things happen, you try to do something good out of it, and then that's met with a new bad thing. And then you try to do something good out of that.
You can't control most things in life, and this was just an example of even when you're trying to do something good, you can't control whatever. But yeah, that will probably not make it in just on our initial chat, is because we don't want to paint the company or this person in any bad light to make it look like an error on their behalf. But so that's something that's not in the film. But
yeah, I so want to show that to everybody. If it wouldn't spoil the ending of our film, I would be posting that everywhere today.
Well, we're looking forward to the story from your perspective instead of one of these bizarre political or conspiracy movies. So, I know a couple people that have had it that are kind of in your boat, where they just living their lives, and then they get this weird sickness and that they don't know what it is because it's too early for anybody, and they're like, whoa. And then, they're documenting on Facebook or, whatever it is, and blogging, whatever. And so I think there would definitely be a market for a story like this that just feels like normal COVID instead of freaky COVID.
And don't feel bad about your reaction to the blood, because I passed out just listening to that story. So
yeah, we should have given a warning, because you would need that.
Yeah. And I think we have just one more question from Bob. Bob Unger, you're with us, correct? Bob, are you still
I
here?
don't know whether you were going to unmute me or I did it myself.
Oh, there he is.
Your comment about leaking the blood. Remember my first time my daughter got blood work done. She was looking at her arm and said, "Oh, rad." Anyway, my question is that now that you've had the virus, are you safe to go out and shoot other people with live virus and be able to embed some other people's stories to give some other perspectives on people go, or you pretty much have to be concerned that you might recatch it?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's so weird because the information just keeps changing as more and more data comes in. Because like when we first had it, like whatever 2 months ago, we did an interview with the CEO and founder of one of the main serology testing companies. Like if you get a serology test here in San Diego, it'll probably be from their company. And we did our test, and it showed up that like I had like an antibody response or whatever. And at that time, he felt pretty comfortable with like, he's like, I'm not your doctor, so I'm not going to say this, but you should probably have immunity for like 1 year to 3 years. But we've since done other tests and other research has come out, and it's kind of like, for now, we kind of just have to pretend that we haven't had it or could get it again. I'm sure more information will come out on that. But that's kind of how we're just acting anyways. So personally, I think personally we feel good because we didn't have it like crazy, you know, like, I don't know if we got it again, if we would get it worse or if it would be less.
Like we were never like fearful for ourselves getting it per se. And so I think we still are going about it like, oh yeah, we don't want to get it again. I mean, shoot, I'm still dealing with problems from the first time, you know, still can't taste or smell. But yeah. And I think in terms of like, we're still taking all of the like precautions, but I think he's saying like in a video realm, would you like, how are you treating?
Yeah, well, that'll be interesting because when I first got it and started, this is where my brain was at. When I first got it, I was like, man, I'm going to update my like production hub profile. I'm going to blast it everywhere that like, I'm immune. Like
safest person you can hire.
Cinematographer in San Diego that you can hire, funnel all your jobs to me. I'm not worried. But now as I'm starting to like kind of hear more stories of what people are having to do on set, it just seems like a pain in the butt to like follow all the proper protocol and stuff like that. So to be honest, like my bread and butter is client work, and all of that has pretty much disappeared. And I've wanted to do original content and transition into original content for a long time. I've got a background in documentary, but I've also got some narrative work, like our short film that we made last year won the San Diego International Film Festival for best local film. So the last couple of years, I've gotten more and more long form projects, longer documentaries. And that's really what I want to do. So from a business perspective, I'm like, I've kind of wanted to cut down on client work and do more original stuff. And we've just never made that jump because in order to do that, I would have to say no to all the paying jobs, which I think would probably be a tough sell to Krista. Like, hey, I want to do this passion project where I'm going to make zero money, but it's got potential to further my career. The only drawback is I'm going to make $0 for the next 2 or 3 months. So it always seemed like that was such a big risk. And then COVID just kind of took away that risk because it took away all my jobs anyway. So it'll be weird to see like if this project, what it does for my career, like if it helps launch me more into that original content space, because that's where I want to be. So I guess that would maybe be like one of the ultimate making lemonades out of the situation, is if this crappy virus that's ruined our industry and has taken away all of my work ends up being the thing that helps me make the jump into original long form content. That would be awesome. So we'll see. So I guess I didn't really answer your question too much, but I'm not really thinking about client work, to be honest. Like I've just been living in this documentary bubble for 2 months and trying to get us to the finish line, which I feel like I'm currently crawling across. But yeah, we'll see. Sorry, that probably wasn't a good answer to your question.
Well, by the fact you aren't willing to go out and you're concerned you could catch it again. I was curious too, you were commenting that you didn't want your neighbors to know that you had it. I imagine now they all know, because it's hard to have those people coming in bunny suits and not be obvious about it.
We were so worried. True. The very first one, because the first one that came was like in the heat of when we had it.
He was literally like from the ET hazmat scene.
Yeah, and we were like peering out the windows to like see like how can we get him in with going, unnoticed? And then we it was mainly me when I worked through the emotional about like feeling like the stigma and this is my fault or whatever. And then kind of worked through that and realizing like, okay, I didn't do anything wrong, whatever. And we're following things. And then especially once we recovered, then it's like, well, people can now know, so yeah, we kind of don't.
Yeah, it was weird too, because when Krista first got it and had to tell her work and HR and stuff, it was very much like we felt like we were lepers.
Yeah.
Like we were like unclean. We have to like stay away from everybody. And so we really didn't want anybody to know. It's like we wanted to tell our friends and family.
Because we didn't want to, like, if our neighbors saw us, like, walk outside into the courtyard to get some fresh air, we didn't want them to be like,
we live in
what
an
are
apartment
you doing?
complex.
Like, you have it, So, like, that's where we were pretty on the down low when we had it because of, just
so it was a weird,
people's
even like
opinion.
The question about the masks, like this last 2 months has been like 2 years. Cause like at the beginning we were like, we don't want anybody to know that we have it. And like early on,
now we're making a documentary.
Yeah.
We want the world to know. The more
on,
people that know, the better.
Yeah. Early on we did an Instagram live with our friends and family. And we knew that none of her coworkers followed her and none of our neighbors followed us on social media. So we felt like we're kind of like skipping our immediate circles.
Yeah.
So that was probably safe. But then literally the next day I got a thing from NBC News, San Diego, that was like, wanted to do a story on us.
No.
And I was like, and I had to say no, because we were like, we know our neighbors don't follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, but they watch the news. They probably watch the news. So yeah, we're like,
we didn't want anybody to know. But
and then later, as the documentary grew, and then we're seeing it more as like a business opportunity and potential. And then it's again, as we're getting healthy, then it kind of turned a corner where the first news story was about us, where we weren't looking for anything. But now it can be like, oh, this is about this documentary.
Yeah.
And like, so that kind of changed our tune as well.
So the first time the blood man came, we were like shaking and nervous, like, let's get him in here quick. And then by the third time he came, we're like,
hey, good to see you again.
Yeah. Hey, Tony, we're in the kitchen today.
Yeah.
I've got a bigger light set up.
Yeah.
So it just kind of changed over time.
Or I didn't like the way you walked up the stairs. Can you do it a little more slowly?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Put your bag in your right hand.
Do it with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do it with me. Right, exactly. Let's get this timed out right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Am I seeing a hand up, Greg? Do you have a question?
I do. In my previous life, I interviewed the author of Patient Zero, Randy Shills, in San Francisco. And I'm wondering, do you have any idea how this came to visit you?
That is a great question.
Me? Because it's on me.
At first we assumed that I gave it to Krista because I had a cough for a little while, but like going back and because I like contacted everybody that had been around. I've been on a lot of shoots recently and stuff like that. Not a single person has gotten it, or if they did, they were all asymptomatic. So I
think that, so on that last Friday that I worked, I left the office, and again,
which was the first day of quarantine.
The first day of lockdown.
Or lockdown or whatever.
Yeah, March 20th. I had gone to the grocery store, and I actually had donated blood that day.
Just because she's a good person.
I try to be.
She does it out of the goodness of
I
her
like
heart.
to be a blood donor. And it was, again, this is the very beginning where just like, we were taking things serious, but it wasn't to the point where, again, masks weren't required, kind of whatever. And they were taking precautions, like they were taking our temperature. It was a mobile station, so it's like a giant bus. And this is all just speculation in my thought, but like you're using a shared clipboard and a shared pen that other people have touched. And then the nurse is handing me some papers. And then after you're done, you sit in the cantina and have some snacks. And I hadn't washed my hands after any of that. And so I'm like eating an Oreo that I had unwashed hands after sharing a pen and whatever. And so my personal just thought is that I maybe picked it up there because then they say the average time from exposure to symptoms is 5 days. And it was 5 days later that I first started noticing that maybe tightness in my chest. So that's just my hypothesis, but.
And it was day 6 that you lost your taste?
Day 7 that I lost my smell. So.
And that was like that afternoon that she lost it. We went through a drive-through coffee shop and you could taste the drink, right?
Yeah.
You taste the drink, and that was literally like 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon. And then that night at
And then by
dinner,
dinner, I
at
couldn't
like
taste my
8
food.
o'clock, she couldn't taste her food.
Yeah.
So that was 6 days after that. So
that's just my hypothesis, that when I was out and about on that Friday and just looking back at my actions, because I specifically know I ate an Oreo cookie that I touched with my own hands.
Dang Oreos.
After touching probably a shared pen and a shared clipboard. That's just my hypothesis, but officially I don't
It is crazy. Like, what are the odds? Because she probably got it on the first day of
lockdown.
lockdown. And that was like, I don't know if you remember that. It was like the governor came on a Thursday night and was like, lockdown. It was like,
you're like, what?
Well, all my stuff's at work on Friday.
Yeah,
I
like I literally had to go into work for a half day to like throw the milk away in the fridge and kind of all of those things.
And then that may or may not have been the day that she got it. So
yeah, but it's also, I mean,
we don't know though, to be honest.
It could have come from an Amazon box that
or groceries.
I was never great. I was never that person that was like sanitizing all of my groceries for 3 hours before I
3 days.
Or, 3 days. I don't know. So this is just my hypothesis. But again, it's the crazy thing about this. There's no way to trace back like where you got it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
None of us were sanitizing at that point.
Right. Yeah. Also that. Yeah.
Yes. Bob, I see your hand.
Just to follow up on that, did you by chance check with the blood bank and say that that's your thought of where you might have gotten it? Because obviously they test the blood and would be able to tell if any of those donators that day had the virus in their system.
So I definitely followed up with them to let them know that I had contracted it, because again, they then, took my blood and they're saying like, it's not shown that it can transfer through blood, but they were, pulling it off. But I didn't like ask about kind of whatever, and just kind of assumed that like for HIPAA reasons or whatever, they might not even be able to tell me that information. But no, I didn't actually, follow up with them about if I thought that's where I got it, other than to let them know that, hey, I did, test positive for this, so you don't use my blood.
And no antibodies in there.
Did you guys do your own contact tracing, or was it done like medically?
We did our own. At that point. Well, and then we got a call from the San Diego.
We did, and I'd say we're not very political people at all. We're pretty peaceful people, but it is kind of strange. We've gotten some weird phone calls that's like, is somebody tracking us now? Do we have
right.
Do we have a tracker built into us?
Yeah, I would say, I think gosh, I'm trying to remember. Did they tell us? Like to contact, because I know we went back and he contacted all of his people.
You had to for work.
And for work, I definitely had to. And then even I remember texting some people from like our community group. I can't remember. Did we self-initiate that? We must have been told that by.
Yeah, I think we self
did it, but
I'm one of those people, like when you see the memes, when you're like an editor in real life and an editor in quarantine, it doesn't look any different. That's basically my life. I'm an introvert, so if I'm not on set DPing somebody's shoot, I am trying to interact with as few
his world's pretty
as
small
possible.
as it is. Yeah.
My contract tracing was basically like, Krista, I think I was around you.
Yeah.
No, I told everybody that I was on a shoot with, and yeah, that's wild, because Krista had some people that were really fearful coworkers, and I had some people too that like once word got out, like people started calling me and like, tell me your symptoms, like what happened, blah blah blah. Luckily nobody was mean about it. It was like, what were you doing on set? But
yeah, I guess it's interesting because again, we had it so early, where I think now there's definitely more measures in place.
That's true.
But again, go back 2 months, like they were still developing all of this. So yeah, it was kind of on us. And that's a good question. I honestly don't remember I think one time when the county called me, I think they asked if I had contacted everyone I'd been in contact with the previous 14 days, which let's just say is really hard to do.
Yeah, I can imagine.
If I were to ask you, like, can you name every person that you've been in contact with in the past 2 weeks? Like, no, like that's really hard.
Yeah.
I live with 2 people and I couldn't tell you if I have had contact with them today.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I basically just told anybody that I could think of.
Yeah.
And none of them ever got any symptoms.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was just like, like if it was Krista literally picking it up on her last stop before quarantining and then bringing it into the house.
Or I mean, because it's so, I think the most recent stat I saw was 30% of people are asymptomatic. Don't quote me on that because that could be wrong. But so like, I literally could have picked it up from an asymptomatic person at my office, but I was the one that showed symptoms, tested positive, and so then it was kind of on me that everyone's getting this information, but no one else from the office said that they got it.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's what's just so weird because of there's so many asymptomatic people or symptoms, like one of you said, like, oh, I got kind of sick, but I didn't quite realize what it was. Like, I mean, like we said, that's what it would have been with Chris if it hadn't been for me. It was such an interesting losing my taste and smell. We would have just thought.
Yeah, I'd like to throw an interesting random stat out for you guys. We learned this in one of our interviews, and the stat for San Diego has actually held up over the 2 months. That outside of like New York City and some of those hot spots, but San Diego specifically, 4 out of all the people that have symptoms and they're convinced that they may have it,
of all the people that have tested
and actually go and get a test because they're like, I've got a fever or I'm sick or whatever, only 4% of those people actually test positive for COVID-19. So there's like, we've heard so many stories of people that are like, oh, in January I felt this way, or February I felt this way. So that's like pretty wild that like, I'm not going to make any political statements here, but like that, yeah, just out of all the people that think they have it and go get tested because they think they have it, only 4% actually do. So I think to be honest, I think it was just a fluke that we got it.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I should go buy a lotto ticket because we're like in the minority,
That's true. And we probably, if she hadn't lost her taste and smell, we would have probably never gotten tested.
Totally.
Because when I first tried to get tested after she tested positive, my healthcare provider was like, no, we're only testing people that have
testing
to be
was
admitted
so
into the
limited
hospital.
Again 2 months ago. Like,
so I just called her doctor and was like, hey,
My
that
doctor
lady
did.
you just said had it, I live with her, I need to know whether I have it or not because I have a shoot next week that I probably need to cancel, but I need to know if I need to cancel it. So a lot has changed.
Back to distribution. Oh, sorry, David.
Yeah, we had a follow-up question on distribution from Al Lefcourt. Al, are you there?
I don't know if he's still here.
Yeah, he's there. There he is. I see it, Al. You might still be on mute.
Hi, Al.
Hey.
Hi, guys. Real quick, you mentioned 2 ways of distributing through Amazon. One was the Amazon Prime streaming. What was the other one?
So you can also upload it. It's all through the same system, and then you can just pick whether it's like, I think the term is SVOD or TVOD, subscription video on demand, which would mean if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it for free, or TVOD, which I think means transactional video on demand. But you can set that. We haven't gone through the process yet, but basically you can do it that way. So you can set your own price. So we'll probably, if we do it that way, it'll probably be $3 or $4 for the rental and like $8 to $10 for the purchase. But you get to choose whether you want to do that or not. So you can choose whether you want it to be on Amazon Prime for free, and I'll get 5 to 10 cents per hour watch, which I don't know how many people would have to watch it to make any money on that, but maybe if I went viral, no pun intended, we could make a couple $1,000. I don't know, but I think our best chance is doing the TVOD route, which will probably set a rental price and a purchase price. Hopefully, like all our relatives will do the purchase part, and then all of our friends will at least do the rental part. And then we're just basically playing the algorithm game. Like it sounds like if you follow any authors that release books on Amazon, you know how they're like, pre-order and have your review written ready and all that. So we'll probably play that game.
Forgive my ignorance, but where do you go to do that? Just open up Amazon and
just on Amazon, like whether it's the app or it's the Amazon video. Oh, I'm sorry, to self-distribute?
Yes.
Yeah, I think if you just Google, I forget what they call it, but if you just Google like Amazon video distribution, like it'll be one of the first things to pop up, and it's a pretty simple thing.
Okay.
The other way that most people do self-distribution will be through an aggregator, through a service like Quiver. If you Google Quiver, you can see that, where basically you pay a flat fee that starts out at like $1,500, and then it's kind of a la carte after that. But basically you can do it through there, and they basically make sure that all your files are the right format, and that you have your closed captioning, and you have your poster artwork and all the different dimensions that they're going to need. And then basically they aggregate that all the way out to like iTunes, Amazon, Vimeo on demand, all those types of things.
Will
So
they
you can certainly do it that route, but everybody we've talked to is like 75% of our sales come from Amazon. So even though it's cool to be on iTunes, nobody's going to find you there. And that Amazon actually has a really good algorithm for recommending your films.
Do they require a trailer?
Yeah. Trailer is definitely one of the requirements.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah. Happy to help.
Well, Chris and Krista Francis, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. This has been absolutely fascinating. And I really appreciate all of your insights. And I think about how my husband would feel if he were ill and I was in a space with a camera. So thank you for your bravery and for telling us your story tonight. And someone did ask, are you interested in having us share your trailer? Is there a way that the filmmaking community here in San Diego and beyond can support you in these efforts? What could we do?
Yeah, that would be great. I think the number one ask would be to sign up for our email list on our website, which is makinglemonade.film, so .film. That would probably be the best way. Basically, like what we've been told by some of the agents and stuff is that they're going to look at our YouTube, our Facebook. They want to see like comments. Like it doesn't have to go viral. We just need to see that there's an actual need or a desire to want to see the film. So,
okay. So interacting with you is one way to build the audience and interest from distributors.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think if you do really want to support the film, if we go self-distribution route, we'll get all that info out via the email, like where you can rent the film and stuff like that. But I think our biggest ask that we're going to have for anybody that would like to support our journey is if we do self-distribution is when we launch to like rent or buy the film that first week and to leave a review and rate it. And
a good review.
Yeah. I mean, if you think the film sucks, like totally, that's fine.
Just tell us personally, just leave it off.
Just don't write the review. And then one thing I'm learning too, because I have a buddy that self-distributed on Amazon and he's done really well on Amazon. But I looked up his film the other day on Amazon and the first 2 reviews are 1-star reviews that just basically are just like ripping the film. And that shows up because the most people have voted that most helpful. So,
oh my gosh.
So I think like, and it's a good documentary too. It was like really, really well done. And it was by a San Diego guy too. But like one thing I think that's going to be our big ask is basically to help us, scratch our lotto ticket at Amazon by, juking the algorithm, by renting it, leaving a review, and then also voting up like positive reviews.
Positive reviews. Yes.
And then after that, it's out of our hands at that point.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I see some people applauding, even though it's
cool.
Silent and applause.
Thanks.
So this has been super
We'll go gallery view here so we can see everybody.
Yeah, exactly. We can go to gallery view.
Good to see everybody.
I don't know that anybody had put anything into the chat that they were pressing and really wanted to talk about tonight. Tom, am I seeing you? Did you have something for us? Or I can also just wrap it up by saying our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, June 24th. And if you have any ideas about something that you might like to talk about in terms of changes in the industry, just whatever is on your mind with filmmaking and media production in San Diego, send me an email. You can find that address on the SDMP website. And also we have been posting a lot of resources on the website, so take a look at that when you have a chance. And thank you for being here tonight. We really appreciate all of you. Oh, and Bob Unger is also a member of the board. I meant to mention his name earlier. Thank you, Bob, for all of the work that you do, that important work. He manages our finances and couldn't do it without you. So thank you very much, and see you next month, everybody.
All right, cool. Thanks for having us, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. That was great. Good meeting.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
I might add one little tidbit that does come to my attention as I've been playing with this. Is if you're using OBS, you can also, if you need an image in your background or something, you can use a Photoshop document.
Say that again, Bob.
Photoshop. Using Photoshop imaging to create your spaces, if you will.
For any image that you want to use in OBS, you can actually Photoshop, upload it to OBS, and if you make any change in Photoshop, it's immediately reflected in OBS when you save it. You don't have to actually export it as a JPEG and then use that in your OBS.
Yeah, oh, it's connected kind of image. That's nice.
Yeah, you can use it kind of like a Chiron
cool,
generator for lower
That's
thirds.
why I thought I'd share it.
Nice, nice. I went back again after we had already started. So we're live on YouTube, even though our guests have left now.
Yeah, you're still recording too, Tom.
I am, and I'm trying to find out where to turn it off.
We're still here if you guys need us.
It says live, but I'm not seeing the button that says turn it off.
I had actually noticed that we were live on YouTube, Tom, because I have a little indicator here on the screen.
It does. Oh, you go up here. Okay, you probably
I posted that on Facebook about third of the way through. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Oh, great,
Jane.
It
was weird. I mean, it just worked exactly the way it did the first time. It's just, you know how it is. You know, sometimes you gotta, and that's why I kept trying. That's, I mean, even Chris's comment about, of course, the drive went down immediately right after I tried to use it. You know. And I'm just going, yes, that's part of our job, dealing with technology that is at 80% even. I mean, it breaks. You set it up one way, it worked fine last time. You got to reset it up. Right at the beginning of this, I had to unplug my Magwell and replug it in before everything would work again.
The expression is failure is not an option. It comes standard.
It comes standard. Yeah. You know, Murphy's Law is alive and well in everything we do. I mean, just untangling a cable. Oh my God, you know, the simple things.
I think Murphy worked in production.
Yeah, he said it rolling. All right, guys, I'm going to stop the live stream. Who's this? Steve. Steve, how do you pronounce your last name, Steve?
Froelich.
Froelich. How you doing?
I heard about this from Nicole Franco, and I've worked with Chris Francis before, so
hey,
I wanted
Steve.
to jump on. And what's up, man? Sorry to see you.
You're still there. Okay.
Sorry to see you under these circumstances, but your head looks clean shaven like always, man. Looks great.
Fresh shave just for the camera today. Although I ran out of time to put my powder on, so I put Krista closer to the key light.
Got it.
She has all this hair to soak up, and she's got the backlight, so.
Looks great. Your house is nice. Hey, you know Jody Silly of the Film Consortium?
I met her at the San Diego Film Festival.
Okay.
Actually, I think she presented the award, but.
Nice.
So I met her on stage.
You met her on stage. That's a good place to meet her. Her roommate's boyfriend lost his taste and smell, and he didn't get tested, but no one believed him. So this was like right when I went down, like that second week in March, and she was like, "Yeah, we think he has it. He can't taste anything." So they were like keeping distance, and they're still dating, but they weren't touching each other or even being in the same room. But no one was believing him. So when Nicole sent out the stuff, and then I saw you guys, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's real." Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I should probably get tested.
Yeah,
Or if
well,
it's
been a while now. He's probably in the clear.
Get the antibody testing, maybe at
Right.
least.
I had a question though. Is it okay if I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I mean, we're off YouTube, so now we can ask.
So it's private information right now.
Ask away. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I am recording it, and I will post it later. No.
Okay, cool. So Chris, my question was, what was the feedback from the agents, and how was that different from feedback you got from producers?
So the main agent that we talked with, he basically told us he was great. He was super supportive, but very honest. And he's like, I don't do anybody favors. He's like, I have people, contacts I can call in favors, but he's like, if I don't think what I'm bringing to them is doing them a favor by bringing them this project, I won't do it. So he told us, he's like, this was back when the film was like 17 minutes long. He's like, I think your film is very timely, very interesting, very entertaining. He's like, I think your friends and family will love this, but for a general audience, I need to see more of your struggle. He's like, it can't just be like all up. And he's like, I'm older. I don't know how old he is. He's probably in his 50s or early 60s or something. He's like, I don't do social media. He's like, so I just kind of assumed that you guys were like influencer people because you did an Instagram live in the documentary, which was the first
time we've ever done that.
Literally the first time we were figuring out how to do it. Like as we're doing it, we had no idea what we're doing. And he's like, so I just assumed that you guys were like YouTubers or something, and they're just like, he's like, I don't think it was like, hey, look at us or blah blah blah, but he's like, I think for a general audience, like from traditional distribution, they need to see more of the struggles. He's like, even if your health isn't like, because I was like, I don't know what we can do. Like, we're not on ventilators. Like, I can't like drum this up. And he had some really good feedback of just being like, well, we just want to hear.
He was basically started naming conversations that we had off camera about like financial. What does this look like for us in the future? Or are you scared that it is going to get worse? Or, kind of, and we're like, all these things where we're like, oh, we've talked about that.
Right.
We just hadn't filmed it.
Right.
Yeah. So it wasn't like we were making things
So
up.
like building the tension. So like, can you go back and scrub your footage and find moments, even though it's going to end well, you could make it like, a little more stressful?
Yeah, there were still like a lot of scenes that we could still film that were still like authentic and real. Like, there's some conversations we had that was kind of like, to be honest, like one of my favorite scenes in the film, Krista was just having a bad day that day. And I could feel like she doesn't have a bad day very often. And I could tell that she just wasn't feeling good and just wasn't happy about things. And she was in the kitchen eating some food. So I just grabbed the camera and I was like, this is going to piss her off, but I'm going to do it anyways, because I think something's going to come out of this. And I was just like, how are you feeling right now? And she just like,
I'm pissed. I can't taste anything.
Yeah. And just
I don't know if this is coming back. Like this is.
Yeah. And so there were scenes like that we could still film and still be very real and very authentic without like drumming things up. Cause I was like, just from an integrity standpoint, I was like, I can't be like, how are we going to pay rent? And it's like, well, we're going to pay rent because we've been saving like crazy for 5 years and getting out of debt and like being I was telling the agent, I was like, I don't know how you sell that. Cause like most people are like getting laid off and are in like dire straits financially. And for the last 5 years, we've been the ones that are like, man, this sucks. Like all our friends are buying houses and cars and going on cool vacations. And we're living in our little 1-bedroom apartment, saving. And then it's like something like this happens and it's like, oh, we're going to be okay. But it's like, that doesn't make for good TV. Right. So it was like talking through some of that with him was really helpful to figure out like what could still resonate with audiences. And so we just kept filming. He was like, I don't think you guys are done. He's like, COVID-19 is not going anywhere. He's like, I don't think you need to rush to like try to be the first person to release something on this. He's like, just keep filming your story, which we did. And our story had a lot more ups and a lot more downs than we had to that point. So some of the stuff we did intentionally in the sense that like, hey, maybe we should talk about this topic. We haven't talked about it. And then other stuff just happened and we were just capturing it. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Was any of the feedback from the producers, did that influence on how you were filming things like technically?
No. I think that one agent is, and he's probably going to be our best bet at landing a distribution deal. I kind of let his feedback be the main. And then, I mean, one of the other producers is Nicole Franco, who's like officially come on as my consulting producer. So like me and her and one of the editors that I work with a lot and he has a lot of documentary chops. Those have kind of been my main like inner circle. So that's definitely like influenced some of the content and stuff. But some of the other stuff, I mean, we've sent it to like a producer that Nicole knows that's like really established and he's just old school. And
his phone call was funny.
Yeah, his phone call was really funny.
After the phone call, I was like, do you still feel okay about the film?
Yeah.
Like it was
Ralph Winter. Did you mean him?
No, but Ralph did give us feedback. We
Okay.
just heard back from him like last week, and I